Hey guys, I'm Devon from Baka Burrito, and on today's episode of Breakfast Burrito, I'm gonna go ahead and answer a question that I've seen a lot online in the Avatar: The Last Airbender communities. Um, no matter where I look, it seems that people are very adamant at the fact that bending is 100% spiritual, and that there's no genetic component to bending. And I'm here to debunk that. And again, this video is all in good fun, and I'm not an expert in genetics. I just have a passing curiosity and not obsession, but interest in genetics. And so it's really cool to look into. This entire idea was brought on in the fact that I'm in several different groups for Avatar, anime, etc., on like Facebook and things. And it seems to be a very popular opinion that bending just is 100% spiritual because of how the origins of it worked. And like I said, I'm here to debunk that. But there's specifically a post about Mako and Bolin, in which many people replied to it, stating that the reason he could metal bend is just because of his spirit. Sorry, not metal bend. Lava bend was because of his spirituality. And it actually doesn't seem like that's the case at all. And we're going to pay a really big attention to Aang's children, being Kaya, Bumi, and Tenzin. We're going to pay a lot of attention to Mako and Bolin, and then we're going to pay attention to Tenzin's children as well, because they're all very important to the point I'm going to make. We're going to mention Roku just a little bit, because the avatars are a special case, or in this case, not so special case. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to bring up is the origins of bending themselves. So in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we're told that people were taught how to bend, and this was a natural ability. However, in Legend of Korra, that is later retconned, and we find out that the ability to bend in general was given to us by the lion turtles. Okay, this still doesn't discredit anything I'm about to say, because it was already shown that during that time there were humans who were bestowed that gift, and there were families that were proficient in it. So for generations there were already families that could bend, and this is before the first Avatar. Um, Matter of fact, Wan was taught how to bend by the lion turtles, each of them. So getting into it, it seems to be that there is in fact a genetic component, because of the fact that a bender is only able to pass their bending element, or like children of benders can only either be a bender or a non-bender, but a bender of the same element. With, again, the only notable exception being the Avatar. There are, and matter of fact, I'm willing to put money down, there are no benders in Avatar at all who do not have the same bending type as as a parent. That being said, it seems to be that either bending is a recessive gene or non-bending is a recessive gene, one of them, or it's a co-dominant, similar to AB blood type. That one's a little less likely, but again, I have some information here, where I'll just continue to try to explain it, right? So we can start off with everyone's favorite earthbender, Toph, right? She's from a noble family in the Earth Kingdom, which is implied to be one of the eldest of the noble families. And I think it's very important to note that there are less Earthbenders than, well, except for the Airbenders, but I mean per capita in their population. Airbenders were the only ones who had a 100% bender rate, because of their spirituality and the way airbending works. So that spirituality is very clearly a component. But Earthbenders are in a special group because of the fact that it's such a physical bending style, and it's so rooted in the physical world. Um, there are less of them, right? So it is a magic power, but a magic power passed down through DNA. So it's pretty notable that neither of Toph parents seem to be benders, but it seems like their parents were, because they're not foreign to the idea of benders. Um, Toph being a bender, and a rather powerful one at that, from a powerful family in the Earth Kingdom, that makes it seem very much like the bloodline itself is like pure, and So you look at her family, right? She's an incredibly powerful earthbender. Both of her daughters are incredibly powerful earthbenders, and Suyin's family, they're all incredibly powerful earthbenders, except Opal, who was born a non-bender. That's very important to notice, right? But she wasn't bestowed the gift of airbending until after harmonic convergence. The same thing with Bumi, being Aang's son, who was born a non-bender, and there were several others. Obviously, the new air nomads are built different. Moving on to Mako and Bolin. One of their parents was a firebender, and one of their parents was an earthbender. Now, this is probably the best example as to why it is a genetic component, because Mako apparently takes after his mother, the firebender, and Bolin seems to take more after his father. But Bolin has the ability to lava bend. Now, well, it should technically be called like magma bending, but like it doesn't actually matter. The supporting evidence that this provides is the fact that fire and earth would be the primary components in lava, and Bolin has parents who are both fire and earth. Of course, it would be incredibly rare for his genetics to line up that way, but we also know that he wasn't able to metal bend, um, which is rare even amongst earthbenders, right? What this shows is some trace amount of his DNA carries the ability to bend fire. He can't bend fire, but he can manipulate it. Lava, cool. Mako doesn't really add to anything to this support this or anything like that, and that's okay because we only needed one of them to do so, because we know that they are biological brothers. As we know from the real world, siblings don't always share enough DNA to like donate organs or things like that. It's not like Mako was going to go out here and be able to lava bend as well as a firebender, but it is notable that he is an incredibly powerful firebender. So moving on to Aang, right? His situation is the most notable and the most telling sign that there is a genetic component to bending. So being the Avatar, we know that he is bestowed through the spirit of Rava the ability to bend all four elements. It's not genetically his ability, so it's not like he can pass on all four elements. And I hear some of you saying, no, but that's never confirmed or denied. But it is actually confirmed because of the fact that we see Aang's children. And all three of them fit the same criteria that I've already laid out, being it can only be an element that one of your parents has, and that, or it's a non-bender. And I'm aware he has three kids, but this is where it gets important. So, Bumi being the oldest, was a non-bender. He was born without the ability to airbend or waterbend. Katara being his wife, that's why waterbending is important in this discussion. So, with Bumi being a non-bender, it could be inferred that, oh, maybe the Avatar's children have to be non-benders. But then we find out Zuko is the grandson of Roku, and the royal fire family did it because of being powerful firebenders. So that means Roku's child was a firebender, and his wife was a firebender. So that just adds more fuel to my point. But I'll touch back on Roku in a little bit. So Aang, being an airbender, was able to have a waterbender daughter and an airbender son, Tenzin and Kaya, or Kaya and Tenzin, respectively. Notice none of his children are firebenders or earthbenders. Yes, he had three, but the way it works is, mathematically, it would be about a 20% chance of all five options if the Avatar could pass all of them. But he can't. So it was more like 33.3, etc., for each water, wind, air, and non-bending. And that actually breaks down perfectly to one of each if he had three children. And what did he have? One of each. So this can be broken down into like a Punnett square, it seems. Every bender carries the ability to bend, right? And if they marry a bender, they also carry the ability to bend. So in Aang's situation, it's notable for supporting my evidence because of the fact that both parents are benders, and if they're co-dominant or one is recessive, that would still leave a 1/4 chance of one of their children being a bender, but it seems to be more than that, right? So codominant, again, it seems to be like that, like AB blood, because A is dominant, B is dominant. So if they get together, it's an AB type. Uh, but that would still leave a quarter chance of one of their children not being a bender, and Boomy being the first one wasn't a bender. So again, this math still adds up while here. So this is further supported by the fact that Tenzin's children, none of them are earth, water, or firebenders. Aang does not carry the genes to pass on the firebending or the earthbending. So with Tenzin's children, all three of them are airbenders, and it's implied that his wife is a descendant of the old airbending tribes as well. That matters a little bit less. So the only child that we don't have a distinct possibility for is Rohan. And that's fine, because even though Rohan is a baby with no shown affinity, it can be inferred by the fact that none of his other siblings are anything but air. He's either air or a non-bender. It seems to be that he inherited two bending genes, resulting in a situation where all of his kids will always receive the bending gene. Because for this to work out, that would imply that Tenzin got the bending gene from his mother and got it from his father. Okay? So no matter what, all four of his children will be benders, and we see that with three of them. However, this would also mean that two of his children carry the non-bending gene. So their kids will most likely not be benders. And again, the information on Rohan is speculative because, again, he's a baby, but it seems to be supported in the other three. For the Avatar only to be able to pass on their native element is, it seems to be the most concrete thing, and that bending has a genetic component also seems to be very heavily supported in the source material. Um, it's very, so we see bending bestowed upon people in two ways. Upon birth, they just are born with that ability, and one day it awakens. The earliest bender we see is actually Korra. She's able to fire, earth, and water bend immediately at like 4 years old. Um, Whereas the other way we see it is it's bestowed upon people by the lion turtles. The only notable exception is when Korra returns Officer Beifong's bending, but that's more like unblocking chi, because we never see Aang have the ability to bestow bending upon a non-bender. We see him able to restore it, so it's more like he seals it. Um, and that's the same thing that Korra did. That being said, genetically, the Avatar would only have access to their native element, which is usually shown in the fact that they can only bend the one element at first, right? Then, again, notable exception being Korra, because she was a prodigy. Then through Rava, spiritually, they're able to bend the other three. That's why, similar to Mako and Bolin, Kaya and Tenzin received one element from each of their parents. Um, yeah, and also Tenzin's children are like, there's none of Tenzin's again. This is supported in the fact that none of Tenzin's children are anything but airbenders. This is also supported in the Fire Nation royal family due to the fact that Roku's line includes Azulon, Ozai, Iroh, Zuko, and Azula. Oh, and Iroh the Third, and they're all firebenders. If all bending was spiritual, then we would have had some standard deviation in the royal families of each great nation, because if it wasn't genetic, you wouldn't be able to pass it down, and the royal family wouldn't be as strong at bending as they are. Um, Again, there's just more and more evidence compiling into the fact that this there is a very heavy genetic component. So the fact that all of the Fire Nation royal family are firebenders or non-benders, Zuko's daughter is the only questionable one. We never see her firebend, so it's likely that she is a non-bender, which is okay. Also, Ursa, Zuko's mom, is never shown to firebend either. However, she comes from a very powerful line, being, you know. So notice that them all being firebenders really supports the fact that there's a genetic component, because otherwise you could have had one random Fire Nation prince being a waterbender or something like that. And it's also extra supported by region, right? With the exception of Republic City, the bending elements seem to be traceable to specific regions, those being the Earth Kingdom, the Fire Nation, the Northern and Southern Water Tribe, and the Air Temples. If there was no genetic component, then these people would have more Earthbenders in the Northern Southern Water Tribe. There would be Firebenders there. There would be Firebenders in the Earth Kingdom. And the only Firebenders that are native to the Earth Kingdom are the ones that were there since the invasions. And that's why Republic City is formed. The only city that we have any deviation of the aforementioned evidence is Republic City, because it was occupied by the Fire Nation. And then it became like a central communications hub. Um, so I just want to clarify that it does seem, and is very heavily supported at the fact that bending is either a co-dominant gene or a recessive gene. Um, and it's supported in many ways. The biggest way is Aang's family and extended family, and the Fire Nation royal family. Because if there was no genetic component, then both of those families being related to the Avatar would have had much more deviation in the types of elements that were passed on. And we would have seen that in second and third generations as well, being Tenzin and then his children, and, Zuko, Azula, and then Iroh the Third, and Zuko's daughter, who name is escaping me for whatever reason. Either way, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I've been Devon. If you agree with my evidence, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you disagree, go ahead and tell me how wrong I am down below. And we hope to catch you guys on the next one. Leave a like and a comment on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Have a good one.